Mr. Chairperson, Israel is a proud member of the CSW because we share the commitment to promote the rights and welfare of women everywhere. We believe that a professional, non-political commission dedicated to gender equality and women's rights can transform the lives of women and girls everywhere. Unfortunately, the unbalanced, factually flawed, and highly politicized resolution before us today does nothing to achieve these critical goals. This resolution is nothing more than a thinly veiled attack on Israel and has no place in a professional forum like this one. Its only accomplishment will be to tarnish the professionalism and the integrity of this commission. Mr. Chairperson, this resolution before us today is not a call for action, but a call for defamation. It is not about ending discrimination against women. It is about fostering discrimination against my country, against Israel. By focusing on Israel, the resolution ignores the real causes of violence and discrimination against Palestinian women and fails to hold the Palestinian leadership accountable. This resolution will do nothing to help Palestinian women. It will only help to advance the agenda of those who seek to use the CSW as a political platform. If the goal was truly to help Palestinian women, the resolution would focus on the sources of discrimination against women and gender-based violence within Palestinian society. Such information is not difficult to obtain. It can be found in the Secretary General's report on just this subject, for example. The report details the social and legal barriers facing Palestinian women. Allow me to quote, "Palestinian women face specific challenges in accessing justice as a result of laws that discriminate on the basis of sex. They also face social pressures and stigma." The report emphasizes as well that Palestinian women are the victims of, quote, "outdated and discriminatory laws, social restriction, and the lack of physical access to judicial institutions." This is not to mention the ongoing practice of honor killing that is all too common in Palestinian society. None, not one of these appears in the resolution. The drafters of the resolution did not deem it necessary to include any discussion of these critical issues. Not a paragraph, not a sentence, not even a single word. Let me add, the resolution does not make any reference to the ongoing campaign of incitement to violence directed at all segments of Palestinian society, including women and girls. The wave of terror Israel has been facing since last September is a direct result of this incitement, and women have been among the perpetrators of violence. Resolutions such as the one before us, claiming to advance Palestinian women's rights, must condemn those who are responsible for inciting women to terrorism. Mr. Chairperson, year after year, this Commission singles out one country and one country only for condemnation. It does not have a word to say about countries where women are treated as second-class citizens. It does not speak out when women are not permitted to drive or need the permission of their husbands to leave the house. Instead, it only criticizes Israel, a country dedicated to women's rights and a champion for empowering of women. We have always been committed to improving the lives of all women everywhere and dedicated to end violence against them. Mr. Chairperson, the unmistakable bias against my country does not stop with the resolution. It is equally evident in the CSW's annual report. Let me give you some example. It states that, quote, "another 5 Israeli men and 2 Palestinian men were also killed in one incident in West Jerusalem." One incident. There is only one problem with this description. The horrific episode alluded to was no incident. It was a carefully planned terror attack on a synagogue during morning prayer. The terrorists carried out a massacre against the worshipper using axes, knives, and a gun. When the bloodshed at the synagogue came to an end, 4 worshippers were dead, as was an Israeli policeman who responded to the attack. A 6th victim died of his wounds earlier this year. This heinous attack was condemned by both the Secretary General and by the Security Council. Yet, this report does not call it a massacre. It does not distinguish between the terrorists and their victims. In fact, it does not even refer to the killers as terrorists. By equating the, quote, 2 Palestinian men who carried out the massacre and the, quote, 5 Israeli men whom they slaughtered, those with axes in their hands and murder in their heart were treated in the same way as those holding prayer books. In another flagrant example of bias, the report refers to allegation by Palestinians that the unstable political and security situation is responsible for gender-based violence, including domestic violence. Such allegations are a part of all common practice of blaming Israel for every ill in the Palestinian society, which is frequently used by Palestinians in order to avoid taking responsibility. Instead of repeating these shameful excuses for gender-based violence and the mistreatment of women, such reports should make it absolutely clear that there is never an excuse for violence by men against women. Mr. Chairperson, many in this room have become so accustomed to the politicization of discussion in the UN that they no longer see any abnormality in constantly singling out Israel. They no longer see anything unusual in the unrelenting hijacking of discussion and of the waste of our valuable time and resources. To them I say, we no longer can allow ourselves to be complacent. The world we are living in cannot allow a business-as-usual mode. This inspiring and important commission can redeem itself. It can focus on the pressing human rights situation on our globe. It can devote its time, personnel, and resources in direct proportion to the severity of the crisis. It can send a clear message that we really do care for the fate of women and humanity around the world. Speaking of business as usual, this is the part where I'm expected to ask you to vote against this resolution. I do so knowing that this call is futile. As is custom in purely political resolution, your voting instructions have already been received. In fact, for most, they were already decided even before receiving the draft resolution. Yet I call on you to vote against the resolution. But just as important, I call on you to commit yourself to work to end this charade in which every year, in order to indulge the political whim of one party, we endanger the credibility of this commission. If the empowerment of all women really is your goal, let's do that. Let's send a clear message that the CSW must remain free of politics. Thank you.